I told you it was green, Izumi said as the group reached the top of the steep hill. Green, as in the colour green, Nuke said. Yes, sorry to get your hopes up, Prince. Can't you just appreciate this? How often do you see a tree with green leaves, like in the books? Tree, green leaves. Man, we better find something soon, Nuke muttered. You are right, Miss Izumi, this is rather unusual, Isaiah said. They were standing below a palm tree, with short green leaves hanging from the top. A few other such trees were dotted around the hillside, but all was a wasteland as far as you could see in all other directions. Could these be the mythical green stalks? Gustafsson said. He placed a hand on the trunk and sniffed. Ah, ancient feelings. I cannot bear to associate, he went on, sitting down and putting his head in his hands. He wasn't the only one brought down by the place. Been a long, long time, Rick mused. Since what, Mr. Rick? Wadston asked. Since I've been here, a real long time. Almost wouldn't know it. That was when those palm leaves were the least green thing you'd see from up here. Damn Earth clans would have taken it away if the king hadn't been here. The mention of a king piqued Gustafsson's interest, and he scurried over. Izumi's pen dove into a vial of ink. Provide me the name of this king, Metal One, Gustafsson demanded. Stobe. King Stobe. Just Stobe. No king, really. Just the last of his kind. The survivor. The savior. A king by default. Not so worthy, Gustafsson said with a wave of his arms. Rick, are you talking about Stobe as in Stobe's garden? Izumi asked. You know that name? That's a Second Empire title for this place. You really ain't supposed to know that, biological. It's my job to know it. I used to help with the Second Empire research. Well, if folk have done their job, you won't find much else, I assure you of that. What's that meant to mean? Means some things are better off forgotten. That's why we better get out of here right now. Can't take it anymore. What do you remember, Rick? Izumi asked desperately, but Rick shook his head and plodded off on his own. Isaiah, you know what he's on about? Nuke asked. Not as such. Stobe was mentioned in an old Shek legend, a cult or something. Let's be wary of another Red Rick grift, shall we? The group followed Rick away from the hillside, and meandered southeast in the increasingly hopeless search for a huge, intact, yet unclaimed industrial hashish hydroponics facility in need of product recall. They snaked through a set of deep canyons, and then as the ground raised and levelled out again, they saw a most confusing melee up ahead. Humans, giant crabs, and some other things were brawling away. Fishmen, Gustafsson said. Don't listen to anything they say. In what way is it a fish, and in what way is it a man? Nuke asked. They are the result of close association between humans and crabs. Let's make a fishman, Els cheered. Cool. Well, civilization's good for something then. Let's just stroll on by, Nuke suggested. However, as they did so, a group of these fishmen appeared from nowhere and were suddenly all over them, their atrophied claws snipping away and their phlegmy mouths gurgling melodically. Wetter is not better. Don't listen to them, Gustafsson pleaded. Oh, I love you too, Els said, hugging a squirming crossbreed. Do you have to be a certain level of freakish to understand them or something? Nuke asked, plunging his blade between the thick exoskeleton of his assailant. No, nothing like that. This one tells me I'm very handsome, Isaiah reported. Right, so you need to be at least an Isaiah on the crazy scale, Nuke concluded. The group eventually slew all the chattering creatures, and Gustafsson told them, They like to associate with things in a very particular way. They are unworthy, most terribly unworthy. Oh, so it's like what I thought you were going to do to me, Nuke nodded. It tickles, Els said. A little creepy crawly was slithering around on his stomach. Gustafsson clicked his fingers and pointed at it. Ignacio, his bodyguard, moved up and removed the critter with a bite of his blunt teeth. Juice spurted out all over the place, and Ignacio gathered it up on his hands, then started slathering it over Gustafsson. "What? The actual fug?" Izumi shouted, unable to watch any longer. "Fools!" Gustafsson shot back. "Those burrowers can impregnate any species and any gender. They must be destroyed." "And the rubbing shit?" Nuke dared to ask. "Their oil preserves the integrity of your skin. If you fleshy ones wish not to look like your manservant here, I suggest you apply it." "Narcos curses, no fucking way," Izumi said. "I think we've learned everything there is to know about fucking fishmen. Let's fug off right now." "Language, future girl." It's not all that weird. Except that it is. Charlie, don't rub it in. Don't listen to the bad green. Let's all just move, shall we? Nuke said. They left the scene, with Wadston dallying just a little to scoop some of the viscous bug mank into a cup. It was a hard night for the group, ending up hopelessly lost on a mountainside, with their map simply showing the area as a brown splodge with no features to speak of. They ended up unknowingly going back towards civilization, of a sort. There were lights up ahead, but Izumi demanded they keep their distance until the morning on account of the area's high bandit population. But this place was no bandit's lair. "Are you seeing this?" Nuke said. He was looking upon a roughly built village with regular humans just wandering around. I mean, that's amazing for out here, but he was actually surprised by the huge, scuttling fug-off crabs that were also going about their business between the buildings. "I think, my prince, this is the source of that over-association between species," Wadston said. Isaiah directed Bobby and Claw to hold on to Els, whose eyes were already widening. Man and crab living side by side. Is this the power of association? Nuke asked. "Drones cannot associate," Gustafsson was quick to point out. "But I'm no drone. You guys stay here." Ignoring a barrage of protests, Nuke dumped his bag and ran off into the village. "My prince, who will help me protect him?" Wadston asked.
"Now I don't know all that much about this association business," Rick said, "but I think a man needs a little privacy to get it done right, right?"
"So wrong," Izumi said, taking a seat and pouring out a cap of rum. In the village, Nuke waved good morning to a variety of friendly neighborhood crabs. "Oi, what are you doing here?" someone shouted at Nuke from a balcony. "Are you a customer?" "Customer? Yeah, pretty much. You got green here?" "You want a green one? Yeah, we got a green one." "Just one? I need loads." "Loads? Well, we've only got one in green." "What kind of business are you running here? Only one?" "You think it's easy to rear crabs, buddy? You get what colours we got, alright?" Wait. 1 minute in the name of all that is fucking brown. You're talking about crabs. "What the fuck do you think I was talking about? This is Crab Town, mate. You want to buy a crab or not?" Oh, Okran's blessing and Narco's gift. Fucking yes! Nuke exclaimed, rushing up into what turns out was a crab dealership and pulling strings of cats from even his most secret bodily stash. Not long after, Isaiah drew his sword and yelled out, "Prince Tashino, behind you!" A huge green crab was plodding behind him as Nuke left the village. Nuke saw Isaiah's concern, turned around and gave the crab a pat on its thick shell. "Everyone, I want you to meet Prince," Nuke said, bringing his new friend closer. "And that's not all," he added. "He's a crab boy. I knew he'd turn out to be a crab boy," Izumi was muttering as Nuke went behind Prince and then returned with 2 tiny crablets. And by tiny, I mean they were about the size of 2 dinner plates rather than the size of a car. "The orange one is Krusty, and this little fellow is Scut," Nuke said, handing them off to Isaiah and Els to hold.
"Oh my, it is rather special, isn't it?"
Isaiah said.
"Crab friend, I was raised by crabs, you know,"
Els said. Izumi hurriedly reopened the rum, threw away the cap and started swigging. "My prince, how much did you spend on those?" Wadston asked. "No price is too high," was Nuke's reply.
All of our money. Months of work,
he breathed. Izumi put an extremely welcome hand on his shoulder and offered up the rum bottle. So, that's how the gang was slightly expanded in number and hugely expanded in mass. The mass was a bit of an issue, in fact, for Prince, the adult crab, could only stomp along at a modest pace. "We'll never get anywhere at a crab's pace," Izumi complained. "He's only just become free-range, future girl. Let him stretch his legs." "But we're gonna run out of food at this rate. Oh, and we're already out of rum."
Don't worry, madame. Let a strong man with arms of steel deal with this for you,
Rick said. With seemingly no effort at all, he lifted Prince off the ground and carried him overhead. The crab did not appear to notice, and waved its legs as if walking anyway, while Rick sped him forwards at a more reasonable pace. Anyone who saw this group that featured a red-faced robot wielding an entire giant crab probably decided not to mess with them, and as such, the crew wandered freely up the so-called Green Beach coast, which was certainly not worthy of the green part of its title, disappointing each in their own way. Becoming increasingly lost, they stumbled around in a vaguely northerly direction. They passed First Empire ships, forever beached far inland, and a huge docking facility, now sitting on the side of a sandy hill. "The sea used to come up here," Izumi explained, "and there was an inland sea outside Brink." "So, where did it go?" Nuke asked. "That is the question. Sea somehow lost a load of water during the wars at the end of the First Empire. Rick, want to tell me what happened?"
I do not want to tell you what happened. Additionally, I do not know what happened, so please disregard my first statement,
Rick recited.
"Perhaps you could do us the honor of at least telling us where we are,"
Wadston suggested.
Pirates' End. We ended them good.
"And is that near any shelter?"
I haven't been here in 3,000 years, you know. Don't know where the best gentleman's club is these days.
Fair enough. Let's carry on that way,"
Wadston said, and so they did. They ended up going inland a little, and all of a sudden Izumi knew exactly where they were. Ahead of them was another First Empire boatyard, sitting on the eastern end of that former inland sea she had mentioned.
"Guys, I recognize this place. Been a while, but I'm pretty sure Black Scratch is on the other side of those cliffs,"
she said. "Sounds like at least a middling gentleman's club," Nuke commented.
"It's where I worked after Brink. You can ask for the full story whenever you want, you know."
"Must be good if you ran from it as well."
"I was still working for them when I got stuck with you. And now, if you don't mind, I think we should pop back in and see what I'm owed."
"Oh, now we're talking. It's bring your crab crew to work day."
"Yeah, no chance I can convince you all to just stay here."
We'll all be on our best behavior, Miss Izumi, Isaiah said. The crabs are house-trained after all. Negative. Can confirm to be false,
Rick said, much in need of a clean after a day with Prince over his head. Izumi could protest no more, and they carried on around the last lake of the inland sea, up some steep cliffs, and out onto a plateau scattered with First and Second Empire ruins, somewhat alive brown trees, and, most importantly, the walls and warmth of the city of Black Scratch. "No pets," the gate guard said as Nuke and company approached. "They're just toys, a life-size one," Nuke said. Els was cuddling the crablet in a convincing fashion already. It was 10 in the evening, and in the darkness it wasn't completely obvious that the crabs were squirming about, so everyone was waved inside.
"Can't take these to the inn. We'll stay at the caravan station,"
Izumi said, directing them to the west end of town, where a spread of bedrolls and campfires lined the grounds under the city wall.
"Is it safe to stay here?"
Wadston asked Izumi.
"Yeah, this isn't the Empire. Guards' eyes are real, and there's nowhere to sell you," Izumi said.
If she was telling the truth, it sounded like Heft had a challenger for being the center of civilization, without doubt. At last, they could all get a good night's sleep. Nuke was awoken early in the morning by a kerfuffle going on outside the wall. He took his honor guard, Red Rick, Sandor, and Prince, to investigate. Black Scratch was an established city that had remained unconquered by the samurai lords of the Empire. While this certainly had its benefits, it meant it attracted a lot of attention from outlaws and Empire exiles. As such, it was a favourite target for a band known as the Grass Pirates, the same criminal network that had attacked Nuke and company on their way to Brink. Nuke ran out to assess the credit situation among the fallen, but his entourage did raise a few questions.
"Excuse me, sir," a guard said. "Is this giant crab yours, sir?" "Oh, that's what a giant crab is. In that case, what's a hiver?" Nuke bluffed. "It's no monsters in Black Scratch, sir. This is a respectable town." And what respectable town isn't guarded by a trained killer crab? "Is that a rhetorical question, sir, or shall I provide a list?" "Hear me out. Me and my guild are in town on business. I see you've got issues with the locals. How about you don't ask any questions about our stay here, and in exchange, you'll have a giant crab doing your dirty work for you?" The guard actually decided to try Nuke out on this offer, so Nuke didn't have to go with his backup plan of claiming to be blind and dependent on the guidance of the crab for navigation. As a result, he was able to smuggle a whole load of pirate stuff inside and fence it to the early risers among the locals. Eventually, Izumi appeared among them. "Prince, you're a leather jacket salesman now?" she asked.
"You talking to me or the crab?" Nuke asked.
"I don't care. Did you want me to show you around?"
"I guess. So you worked here?"
"Still work here. This is a hub for tech hunters. They're like real adventurers, and also scientists. Kind of the best thing in the world, you know? If you love them so much, why don't you just marry them?" "I've had offers."
"Seriously?"
"Seriously? You jealous? You're turning green. That's the light reflecting off the crab."
"Prince, stay here. Gonna go with Auntie Iz and get the inside angle."
"Wait, please don't steal anything from this place. This is important."
"Steal anything?"
"Not too much then. Really, it's important to me."
Fine. Who proposed to you?"
"What?
Who said they'd marry you?"
Why does that matter?"
"If I'm gonna pick and choose what I steal..." "Never mind. Go on, show me your libraries or whatever." The tour began, and among an assortment of well-stocked markets, depots and workshops, there were several bars, packed with patrons even at 7 AM, and plentiful supplies of food and drink. No hashish, but the excitement of getting a pet giant crab had eased Nuke's pains in that regard recently. Izumi took Nuke inside the Great Library, a Second Empire structure that housed rows of tall shelves packed with books.
Izumi, you're back already,
the skeleton receptionist said.
"Already? It's been months, Curtis,"
Izumi said.
Months? Well, doesn't time fly when you're deactivated? What about the rest of the crew?
"Gave up on it all in Heng and decided to work for the samurai. I still have all the notes. Now that I'm back, I can compile everything. We've seen a lot. Well, not the original crew, but the new one."
Is the gentleman here your one?
Please don't put it like that."
"I'm number one, if that's what you mean," Nuke said, ignorant to Izumi's fluster.
Incredible. I am number 482-740-83,
the skeleton said.
"Just come upstairs, Nuke," Izumi said.
"Oh my,"
the skeleton remarked, going back to its book. Upstairs, Izumi picked out a particular volume with a violet cover and found a certain page.
"Look, this is my report on the Reavers Lake ruins. It's published," she said.
"Published? What's that mean?"
"It means the scholars thought it was good enough to go into a book."
"But the book is in here."
"Well noticed."
"How are people supposed to read it?"
"They aren't."
"Cool. Good use of time writing it then, huh?"
"We're keeping this away from people like you."
"And you complain that I'm uneducated. The hypocrisy."
"Put that back,"
Izumi said, pointing at the parchment Nuke was trying to sneak into his ninja backpack.
Fine.
Well done, future girl. You're a real historian and stuff. You didn't have to prove it, you know."
"Well, I did. And I'm going to become a lot better known in the high circles of the tech hunters with my next report. Going to be a book unto itself. That's why I wanted to ask you to stay here for a while, Prince."
"Gotta go feed the crabs and stuff."
"Not literally right. I mean,
in the city. It'll take me a week to get all the notes together into something readable. Can you wait that long?
Do we need to be here for that?
I suppose not. But you don't... No, you can go if you want.
I don't want.
You don't?
No.
Good.
Great.
So, we can all leave together once I've settled everything.
Sure.
Thanks. Really. That means a lot to me.
Oh, it's nothing. I wouldn't just leave you here after everything.
You wouldn't?
Of course not. You were worried about that.
No, just... Doesn't matter. I'm relieved.
I'm happy too.
I said relieved, actually. But I am happy right now.
This always makes me happy, Nuke said, keeping his eyes on the ground.
This... You mean... Nuke.
Are you gonna kiss or what?
Rick asked. Yes, in the moment it was easy to forget that Rick and Sandor were standing on the other side of the bookshelf.
What? How dare you? This is an academic...
Izumi ran out of steam and just ran off with the point unfinished.
Always said nobles weren't good at anything. Thought talking would be the exception, Sandor commented. Guys, you're fired, or whatever, okay? Go feed the crabs and tell everyone we're staying for a week or something, Nuke said.
What are you gonna do?
Rick asked. Gonna check some stuff out here, Nuke said. Even he wasn't sure if this meant he was going to read the books or steal them. That there was any question was surely a sign of his growth as a young man. Wadston would have been proud. So, with Izumi now back in paying writing work, and everyone else babysitting a trio of handsy crabs, the crew settled in for a long stretch in Black Scratch. It was a quiet little corner of the world, but not quiet enough that the good old-fashioned credit management and non-consensual private healthcare guilds could not do lucrative trade, helped along by the Tashino Crustacean Corps Private Security Consortium. None of this was helping with the quest for a supply of clean green for the Emperor. However, their time in the city would actually advance the cause of Izumi's alternative Browntown Old School addiction scheme. With a little help from her friends in the Tech Hunters, Nuke was about to become a drug baron, a warlord, and several things in between.